Good evening. You are listening live to the Xtreme Movie Show. I'm your host, Rob, broadcasting to you, as always, from the Xtreme Studios in the Pinellas Palace, just west of Orlando, Florida. I've got the young 20-something Professor Pixel with me tonight as we continue our Columbo television show review, a first watch for the both of us. A show well over 50 years old that we're on Season 2, Episode 6, A Stitch in Time. And Pixel, I understand that nobody your age reads or understands what books are and has no idea what the meaning of analog is, but the old expression is a stitch in time saves nine. And all I know is when I saw this episode, it reminded me of some of the conversations we had over the past few weeks about Season 2 and how, for me, it's been a step down in quality compared to Season 1 in terms of the intensity, the goofiness, the stupid basset hound dog thing. Being the dog lover that I am, I think it's ridiculous. You know what? We only had a couple episodes left of the season, and finally, we get a Columbo episode worth discussing in this season, other than some Mad Conductor, which I think was the first episode, because this one shows Spock, aka the original OG from the TOS series, and all you Star Trek fans know exactly what I'm talking about, if you like the original like I do from the original series, as a doctor who's talented, who has a mentor that he's working with on some pharmaceutical drug trials. He's a bit antsy about it. And the doctor, I could not shake this. I had to stop what I was doing and Google it. I said, this is Charlie and the Chocolate Factories. This is Charlie's dad that would sit in the bed, who was actually a horrible parent or grandparent. And they just wanted that stupid cabbage soup made from with a penny or nail or whatever the hell it was from the book. And it drove me nuts. I had to realize, okay, it's not the same actor, but it looked like him. No.
So that's Will Geer. That's Grandpa Walton.
Exactly, and I don't know if that's Judy Greer's stepfather either, too, who I think's done some stuff lately, might have been in the Halloween movies, but who gives a shit about her? Let's talk about this episode, because this, by far, the standout episode of Season 2. It's probably on my short list out of everything we've seen so far from Season 1 to. This is fantastic. I am completely shocked at how well Leonard Nimoy crushed it. In our Season 1 review of all the episodes of Mission Impossible, we only did the first season, we knew that Leonard Nimoy would later on appear in that show. So I understand he's a smart guy, and it's that holy crap, talk about great writing, great casting, and an intense Columbo here. This is a treat. Go back to basics. It works. Let these two talk and deal with each other and all that. It's probably one of the best villains easily. I mean, just how great it is there, too. That's my initial take. I want to hear yours.
Yes, this is really a good episode. It's hard to go ahead and just, no. This is such a good episode. I know I've enjoyed more of Season 2 than you have this time around, but this one takes the cake. And I think the best way to go ahead and discuss it is to at least brush over the beginning. A heart surgeon. His name's Barry. He's actually Leonard Nimoy.
They're pounding the table.
That's right. And he is going to be performing a surgery on an esteemed colleague, Will Geer, who plays Dr. Hydeman. And they're going to be putting in a new heart valve. They have this. They have him on the table. They take the stitches, and he goes ahead. He's able to go ahead and stitch them all up. And there's this nurse that's like noticing something, and she is kind of just watching him, trying to get what is exactly happening here.
Her female intuition is just going off.
And they finish up. Go ahead. Tie him up. Goes away. And she eventually, after everything's said and done, she sits down and she's in the office and she tells Leonard Nimoy, hey, I'm afraid that you're trying to kill this man. And of course, he's going to be like, that's just silly. That's ridiculous. And
that's illogical. He doesn't say that.
That's illogical. She then brings out this extra bit of crap. The whole thing is sutures. Thank you.
It's what you stitch up with. It's the threading.
Yes, thank you.
There's different types, the dissolving kind and the non-dissolving kind.
But we
don't know that, and they do a great job of explaining it.
Yes. So she's holding the sutures in her hand, and she's like, I found this. And Barry goes ahead, and he's staring at her, and he says, if you believe that I have truly endangered Dr. Heineman's life, you should contact the police immediately. You should go ahead and report me. Go ahead. Instead, she calls the chemist to go ahead, and she wants to test the sutures that she found. So after her phone call, she's walking to her car, and Barry follows her out, and just boom, she's dead.
Tire iron, baby.
Just tire iron, dead.
And
Dead in the
again,
water.
we don't need to see the act itself. That's fine. Totally okay with it.
But it's so interesting because he killed her because he was trying to kill somebody else, and it was great.
Well, you're hitting on a theme that's going to be pretty big here because, I mean, obviously he's like, shit, I called her bluff and she raised me one. And I really like that about her.
I like that. But honestly, she could have gotten like he said to call the police, and instead she took the safe way instead of just looking a little bit silly if she was wrong. But she should just have the police involved. Oh well. They find her body in the morning. He's dead. She's dead, Jim. And
dead, wrapped in plastic.
No. That's the stop. We're not going back to Twin Peaks yet. Have to eventually. It always calls us back. So because Barry isn't done there, he goes ahead and he takes her keys, breaks into her apartment, and plants some, I believe, morphine
drugs.
Yep. Yeah. In her underneath her kitchen sink, and he thinks that he is set. Columbo now is on the scene, looking over the body. He is tired. He's exhausted, feeling kind of sick because he's taking care of his sick wife and didn't get any sleep. Is there coffee?
What do you think of him? Now, let me ask you this.
Yeah.
Obviously, they got the tire iron. He's got like a hard-boiled egg, and he goes to crack it on the tire iron. Do you think that's supposed to be for yucks? I mean, that's the only way I could take it.
He was hungry.
Yeah, but I mean, that's... Well, you know, I do like 70s because, like I say, we get to see smoking. We get to see people that look a lot more just natural. I don't know what the other word is for it here, too. And you're like, yeah, just if you're out doing something, you just got to have a cup of coffee, something to get you through the morning, you know? I mean, that's just how it goes.
And yeah, no, he eventually does. He also I like the angle that he's a little bit tired, sleepy. He's not his usual self as he's going around and starting the first questioning around. But after sorry, I just went blank there for a minute. But after that, one of the first people he goes ahead to talk to is Dr. Spock.
Yeah, this is interesting here because he talks to him or whatever, and he sees him kind of changing like his clock or whatever. Because back then, analog devices that used springs for timing constants and crystals and stuff like that would be electrical stuff. You would have to do things like this. You just wouldn't look at your phone. And so he kind of like talks to him about. He's like, "Oh, it's a reflective gesture, blah blah." Not once does this guy's pulse rate like go above 60. I mean, the guy's calm, cool. And the thing I like too that I think I noticed, if I watched it again, I would look for it even more. Is look like Leonard Nimoy's character here as the doctor. doesn't seem like he makes a lot of eye contact with Columbo. A lot of times when we see them people arguing or fighting, the way they film it's the two-shot technique where I guess it's over the shoulder talking, so you feel like you're the person they're talking to and all that. Here they had a lot of side by sides, like a side-scrolling video game, whatever that type of shot is called. And I thought that was interesting because it made me seem like he was just dismissive of Columbo, but again, without actually, talking like it until a little bit much later did you really get to see that. But the thing is, the drugs were planted. Columbo goes to the apartment and ends up talking to the chick's friend that she's a roommate with and all that. They find the drugs, but there's no fingerprints. So he's like, well, why would you wear gloves and not on fingerprints? It doesn't make sense. Obviously she had access to the drugs, so it follows that maybe she had something or whatever, and maybe she's got a personal vested interest into it. So there's all these little seeds that are planted, I think, pretty good here to set it up. Columbo even goes to a house party that he has, I think, a little bit later in the day. And I told you, I love it when they have house parties. They have all the food, and they have the old bar setting up there, too. I'm just really liking this. This feels like what Columbo should be like.
Yeah. Yep. I like the party. I also like her roommate, which is kind of a ditz. Columbo goes to talk to her a couple times, and the first time that he goes ahead and speaks with her, no, not the first, the second time, goes to the apartment, and she doesn't really have anything to tell him that registers. But as he's looking around a moment, he notices, what's that underneath the sink? Morphine bottles. And there are no fingerprints or anything on there. The roommate, of course, is saying, that has nothing to do with me. And no fingerprints, but he is able to notice these smudges. Like someone wearing gloves. We have one other friend to go ahead and discuss. His name's Harry. He's a veteran, Vietnam vet, and he knew Sharon. And he was apparently having a problem because now the drug angle is something Columbo has to follow up. He did have issues with drugs, but he was able to overcome his issues through Sharon.
Yeah, you called it the Florence Nightingale effect. They had a bit of a fling or whatever. What was interesting about here is this guy looked like somebody else, and I looked him up too, and he turns out not to be the person I thought he was as far as an actor. I can't even think of the dude's name. What I really liked about this, and this is again a Columbo thing, they're showing you parts of LA. They're at a children's petting zoo. So you go, hey, is this guy a creep? Is he a pedo? And of course he's not. But what was neat is it looks like it's a legitimate thing. So they go into a little petting area and it's open. You see the goats there. You got one standing in the back on something. It's kind of cool to see all this real time and real lighting and everything else there too, for the most part. And again, it's that side shot where they're going. And the guy, takes a cigarette out and he's smoking, and I'm watching. I'm like, I like just the simplicity of the scene where he's standing. I think it's against a tree maybe or whatever, and Columbo's there. And I always mention Rambo being one of the first movies that really talks about PTSD for Vietnam vets, even though you had other things for people that couldn't get adjusted movies made out of them. So that's kind of what this is they had their little thing and that was it, but he's clean. And Columbo just seems to kind of like believe him. So you're like, okay. I thought it was interesting though, and what takes this whole episode to a whole nother level is that the doctor finds out kind of about it. So what does he do? This is completely unnecessary. And it's a part of me maybe go, is this just shitty writing? Because you've got this angle that's prevalent. It helps stretch the episode out, honestly, before you get to, A to B. But he goes and knows who the guy is, and he breaks an apartment and he dopes his ass up. And the dude just has one of those trippy trances that we haven't seen in a long time and like stumbles down and everything. And you're like, holy shit. And of course, in our background, in our mind, we start realizing, wait a minute. The guy that is his mentor, the guy he's known for a long time, he's doing the drug trial research with that he wants gone so he can take it all for his own. This guy's got stitches in his heart. They're going to give out in a couple days at most. And the dude's going to die. So nobody's going to suspect it's foul play. So it kind of almost is a perfect crime in a way. And I like that idea of it because heart surgery is so much more advanced than it was two generations ago, say in the late 60s, early 70s. But even then, it was a big deal. And so for somebody to go in there and have any kind of surgery or a stent or anything put on was a big deal, especially if they carved your chest open. So I'm just thinking, the thing that sets, again, Leonard Nimoy apart from everybody in his episode, even though there's not a lot of great dressing in this episode and all that, we at least got some food and a pool party. He's just on point, and his acting is so natural. It's not like I feel like he's trying to. He's not overacting. He's not underacting. This role is just dialed in. I'm just going, wow, holy crap. And I like when Columbo goes in to see the doctor because he's waiting for him to come to, the guy that had the surgery, the elder one, and talk to him, and you see where he's getting a little pissed on it. But it's just, you just don't see him getting riled up at all. Leonard Nimoy, it's fantastic. I was shocked. I'm looking at the time, I'm going, hey, we don't have much more to go, and yet he doesn't look like he's been bothered. It really looks like Columbo is the one that's getting agitated because he's running out of leads and all that too. And one of the best scenes is coming up in here where he just kind of gets very, very serious about it. But I will pause and let you fill in some blanks as we get to that towards the end.
Yeah, no, because we do have a bouncing back and forth of Columbo getting information. And he learns about the sutures not from Leonard Nimoy, but from somebody else.
Mm-hmm.
And he learns about the two types and how that affects the body. If you were to go ahead and place some dissolving sutures in something important, like, a new valve in which you want sutures that aren't going anywhere, that would be devastating. And Columbo gets to a point where he keeps trying to talk to Dr. Heidemann because he's worried about him. But Leonard Nimoy keeps coming in. What are you doing? Lieutenant, I have ordered you to leave this man alone. You are going to step out of here. And he does. Eventually that leads to a scene in the office where Columbo has enough. Mayfield laughing it off as he's pretty much figuring it out. He's trying his old-fashioned way of what if not putting the hypothetical on the doctor yet. But as Mayfield goes ahead and just laughs, Columbo takes the vase, slams it on the desk, and just tells him for once, I think you killed Sharon. I think you're trying to kill Dr. Heidemann. You better hope he doesn't die. Because if so, there's going to be an autopsy. And then he'll know for certain. And you're right, Leonard Nimoy, he doesn't freak out. But it's just so intense that Columbo's being that afterwards that the fear of God's put into him a little bit.
Yeah, this is one of the best individual scenes I think I've seen so far. Season 1, season 2 overall, it really is fantastic. I'm not saying Columbo should be an ass like this all the time, but it means more when he does do something like this, because it reminds us that the guy's smart, really, really smart, and he relies on human behavior and the observation of it, much like a Sherlock Holmes or whatever. And that's kind of interesting, because when we start talking about the ending scene and the discovery, the aha moment, I'll have some strong things to say about that, because basically, we know that they're sutures. We don't know that they're significant, and especially we just know that they are, and we see where we've got the angle, and it all makes sense. There's nothing really dumb or stupid to this point here. Now, realistically, some of these things are you going to get away with? No, of course, it's TV. But the whole thing is you got the $6 million man surgery scene in here, because I think they use some clips from either that TV show and this, or vice versa. But
it's also worth noting that earlier in the observation deck, which is just above the the operation room, Columbo was in there earlier with like the head of the hospital, and he wasn't able to actually look down and see anything because he was going to be a little sick if he did. Yeah. But all during this next scene, because Mayfield goes ahead and affects Dr. Heidemann's drugs to give him a problem with the heart valve, quote unquote.
I like this. He screws with them so he has an excuse to go in there and do surgery to replace them.
Yeah.
And you see him kind of thinking on his feet really sharp here. And Leonard Nimoy, again, does this really coolly. I like this. It's like, man, you killed somebody. Then you killed somebody else you didn't really need to, but you kind of did, which we don't normally get. And now you're making this dude that you're trying to kill go in surgery to kind of make it seem to cover your tracks. This is just pure out evil. I love it.
Yes. But all the while, Columbo is watching from above.
Yes.
He's not taking his eyes off of it this time. And as soon as the operation is finally over, Columbo comes in with detectives. That you see Columbo in the surgical scrubs. It's like, but Mayfield is pissed off, and he goes ahead and he pushes Columbo aside and tries to leave. But obviously,
this was intense. We've never seen anybody assault Columbo, or even if it's just a shove. He was so hot. It's the first time we see him lose control.
Yes.
Or do we?
And so they begin the search. And searching. What are these sutures? Because he had to remove what was there. Where did they go?
Let me explain the concept here of conservation of energy in a particular form in a closed system where anything that goes in has to come out and you can account for it. So the whole point in Columbo coming in here is that you've got a closed system. So nobody moves, nobody does anything. They check everything out. And that's kind of what happens when you get into a situation. So you can use this in mathematics or whatever if you know what kind of system you're in. And I think it's kind of ingenious because you go, well, what came in and out of the system? And other than Columbo and the doctor going to the doctor's room where they had the police presence waiting for him, the police come in and they're like, we can't find anything, Columbo. So I'm going, it's going to be a contact lens moment, as I like to say. And it kind of is. However, as you continue.
Yes. Eventually, Columbo has to admit that, I guess I got it wrong. I can't find anything. And the head of the hospital is like very upset. So is the doctor, but the doctor almost feels satisfied. And Columbo says sorry, walks out the door. And then he walks right back in.
He bursts back
in.
You
there's one thing that I noticed. I noticed that you went ahead and in there, you pushed me aside. That's the first time I've ever seen you angry. And it occurred to me, the one thing we didn't search was me. And he pulls out from his surgical scrubs, laying on the couch, the sutures. And that's it. That's an aha moment. It comes in and it's like, ha! God! Yes!
It was great because some of those things I'm like, man, I don't know. But you know what? He physically touched them. We saw that. It's clear the way they shoot it. It's not in your face, but it's there. We see him obviously visibly get upset. Like I say, he's stressing out hard because this guy's going to die. So he accelerates an allergic reaction, or what we're going to call it, just to get in there to do it. So I thought, this guy's tough as shit, thinking, man, I'll just induce something in him. So I've got to have surgery forced on me to cover my tracks. Quick thinking on his feet and all that. And only one time does he get mildly pissy, rightly so, or whatever. But when you go back and you look at it, he didn't get pissed intentionally. He got pissed as kind of a show so he could bump Columbo to put the sutures in him, the old pockets, switcheroo kind of thing. And I'm like, oh, that's so good, because it goes back to the Vietnam vet that he whacked. And I don't remember if he actually died or not, or just got hurt really bad. Let's just assume he was dead. How he's willing to do that and was very calm and cool about it, everything he did. And it all goes down to the very beginning and the sutures. So this is a lot more cleaner to me than the contact lens episode or some of these other ahas that seem really far-fetched, like spitting or flicking a pearl out, into a umbrella and all that, and the goofy European episode we saw in London. Yeah, overall fantastic episode. I, for once, was completely satisfied with the gotcha and how they strung it along here at the end. Really impressed by Leonard Nimoy's performance in here. This is definitely one of the best episodes so far. It's definitely on my short list. This is what Columbo should be, not what a lot of episodes this season just kind of were, in my opinion. Final thoughts?
It's really just a fantastic episode. And I had high hopes because, the Leonard Nimoy, and I was like, okay, let's see what happens. And he's fantastic in this. It is a great episode. I'm so glad that we got here, and I'm hoping for more like it.
And I understand that you try to do things differently in the second episode. You try to appeal to a little bigger audience because you need to have the viewerships for the money to keep it going and salaries. I understand all that, but at the same time, you got to understand what is it that works about the episodes. And for me, we can be cute about the I gotchas and some of the stuff that we put in there, but at the same time, this is classic Columbo to me in a nutshell. This is again one of the few episodes you would want to say, yeah, if you want to watch a Columbo episode that really defines who he is and what's going on, this would be up there. Fantastic, Leonard Nimoy. Congratulations, sir. Incredible performance there. I salute you. We've had some bad people, and we had some campy stuff this season. The conductor still sticks out in my mind. It's not a bad kind of bad guy, but we didn't have that intensity that we got in the first season with some of the bad guys, and we definitely have it here. Till next week, guys, when we do episode 7, the next one, I think it's the next to last. There's only a couple more left for season 2 of Columbo. We'll be definitely checking that out. So for Professor Pixel and everybody involved here at the Xtreme Movie Show, thanks for watching and listening. Have a good night. Good night now.
Die soon and not prosper? I don't know.
Yeah, I'm looking forward for Shatner. He's in a couple of them, I know. All right, good night, everybody.